It's news time. Journalists from ICTV and STB are working for you. Hello? Explosions are once again being heard in the area of the Pechenizkyi Reservoir in the Kharkiv region. Currently, traffic across the dam is closed. This applies to sections near the settlements of Pechenizkyi and Stary Saltiv. Drivers are being asked to use detour routes. Earlier around noon, the occupiers launched a missile strike on the dam. Fortunately, no people were injured. Usually there is heavy traffic there, reported Oleksandr Husarov, head of the Pechenizkyi community. Specialists began inspecting the damage and started initial restoration work, but there was a renewed threat of a Russian strike. The Pechenizkyi Reservoir is the main source of water supply for Kharkiv, and the bridges connect Kharkiv with Vovchansk and Veliki Burluk. Heavy fighting is currently ongoing in these directions. The Russian army tried multiple times to destroy the dam during the occupation of part of the Kharkiv region in 2022. Through a small bridge that remained after the strikes, people evacuated on foot from the occupied territory to the area controlled by Ukraine. The Russians also struck the bridges over the dam after the successful counter-offensive by the Ukrainian armed forces. In Kremenchuk, Poltava region, water supply has been partially restored after the Russian attack. This was reported by the city mayor, Vitaly Maletsky. According to him, the water supply is being partially restored thanks to autonomous power sources. The most difficult thing is to restore heating supply. Let me remind you, the Russians struck Kremenchuk last night. Several energy infrastructure facilities were targeted in the attack. In addition, drone debris destroyed an outbuilding on the grounds of a private residence. Also in the city of Horishny Plavny, a state of emergency was declared after the shelling of the energy infrastructure. Critical facilities are operating on generators. There is currently no heating supply. Water will be supplied according to a schedule.
In the city of Horishny Plavny, but there were no direct hits there. It's mostly due to the fact that the network was damaged and as a result, there are problems with the electricity supply. Accordingly, both heating and water supply are operating on backup power sources.
Today in Ukraine, the power outage schedules will be significantly tightened. The reason is the recent massive Russian shelling, the main target of which was energy infrastructure. Ukrenergo reports that on Sunday, hourly power outages will last throughout the entire day, in 3 to 4 rounds. In addition, there will also be power restrictions for industrial consumers. The occupiers continue to kill civilians in Donetsk region. Over the past day, 1 person was killed in Slovyansk as a result of enemy shelling in the region. Another 8 people in the city were wounded. This was reported by the head of the military administration, Vadim Falashkin. As a result of the strike with guided aerial bombs, 7 apartment buildings and 12 private houses were damaged. In addition, 2 more people were injured in Kostiantynivka. There were also strikes yesterday in the Bakhmut district. In Siversk, 3 houses were damaged. In total, the Russians shelled settlements in Donetsk region 17 times. Evacuation is ongoing. 102 people were evacuated from the region in a day, including 15 children. There is no complete encirclement of Ukrainian forces in the Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad area. This is the opinion of analysts from the Institute for the Study of War. The absence of Russian forces in Mirnohrad is also confirmed by its defenders, including soldiers of the 79th Separate Air Assault Brigade. In one of its latest reports, the Institute for the Study of War notes that the occupiers are currently trying to completely block the logistics of Ukrainian forces at both the tactical and operational levels. However, our defense forces have also achieved certain successes in the battles for Pokrovsk. According to the report, Russian attempts to advance in the Slovyansk, Lyman and Siversk directions remain unsuccessful. Meanwhile, the situation near Kostiantynivka and Druzhkivka is changing extremely actively. Analysts report a slight advance by the Russian forces to the southwest of Protekina. At the same time, Ukrainian forces achieved success in the eastern part of Kostiantynivka. Each of us can help the armed forces. Soldiers from the 54th Separate Mechanized Brigade, named after Ivan Mazepa, reached out to Fakti. They are destroying the enemy in Donetsk region, including with various types of drones. Perhaps the most effective are those on fiber optics, capable of overcoming Russian electronic warfare systems. Currently, they are raising 500,000 hryvnias for them. You will see the QR code and card number later in the report. The soldiers also showed which Ukrainian innovations they have in their arsenal.
To prepare this formidable bird for battle, it only takes 15 to 20 minutes. A new Ukrainian weapon, which our military is using more and more often, is called darts. It is a Ukrainian medium-range kamikaze drone, developed by specialists from the Steel Hornets team. And now we will talk specifically about these deadly birds.
Alright guys, the craft is ready for combat missions. We can launch it.
Ruslan is from the Kharkiv region and has been in service for 3 years. His call sign is Khrom. He is the main operator in this crew. He says he mastered combat operations specifically on the darts.
When we started working with the darts, well, during our first combat flights, honestly, at first it was scary to lose it, even just to take off, in a way.
This steel bird is truly impressive. Despite being easy to maintain, it is also extremely accessible. In terms of price, the Dart is practically no different from a regular FPV drone, about $1,000, but in terms of power and efficiency, it far surpasses most similar devices. It is strong, durable, and capable of operating in conditions where other drones fail.
The Dart allows the operator to destroy a target such as enemy equipment, which can cost anywhere from 3 to 5 million or even more. It can be flown deep into enemy lines where equipment bases are located, allowing you to destroy them in advance before they are prepared for it.
First it was tractors, then it moved on to mine trawls, and then we started hitting artillery installations, which, as I understand, cost over $1 million and even more.
In reality, the Dart doesn't have many purely military components, just a few key elements responsible for detonation and the warhead itself. Some of the parts arrive ready-made, while the rest are finalized directly within the units. These can be either modified standard munitions or components created from improvised materials for a specific task.
Overall, it's not complicated, but it can fly quite far, 40, 45, up to 50 kilometers.
The speed is also considerable, up to 160 kilometers per hour, and the sturdy fuselage allows it to withstand hits from small arms fire. Equipped with modern systems, it is capable of independently locating and tracking a target.
Right now, we're gaining altitude, heading toward the target. We'll be in front of the target soon. All right, that's it. Gaining altitude. We'll be approaching the target soon.
Korshun, that's the call sign of another crew member. He can spend hours sitting in a basement or dugout controlling this bird. And he talks about another advantage of the darts. It can operate even in the event of a complete loss of connection.
But the most difficult thing is the wind and the fact that it can go into a spin.
With the darts, it's clear that chasing after overly complex technologies isn't always necessary. There are similar drones, but they are much more expensive and not necessarily better. Then you realize an inexpensive and simple solution can work just as well as an expensive foreign option.
The United States is studying Ukraine's experience with the use of drones, said Defense Minister Pete Hegseth. The Pentagon is analyzing the use of drones on the battlefield in order to apply these developments in its own operations in the future. According to Hegseth, in the wars of the future, not only unmanned technologies but also artificial intelligence systems will be decisive. It is these systems that will determine the advantage on the battlefield. The head of the Pentagon also called on allies, particularly in Europe, to increase their defense budgets. He stated that the United States, together with its partners, is working on creating a new global defense system. This will be a powerful joint defense shield with well-armed allies who are ready to defend not only their own borders, but also common interests, emphasized Pete Hegseth. In Poland, a car crashed into a bus carrying Ukrainians. The accident happened at night near Lublin. The driver of the car drove into the oncoming lane and collided with a bus that was traveling from Rawa-Ruska to Warsaw. He died at the scene, and the bus from the impact veered off the road into a field. There were 26 Ukrainian citizens on board. None of them were injured. The Russians are relentlessly pressing on Mirnohrad and Pokrovsk. It is extremely difficult for our soldiers to reach their positions. But ground robotic systems are helping. That's why the paratroopers of the 79th Brigade are asking for support in raising funds for the GRS. The account details are on the screen. These robots not only deliver all the essentials to the front line, but also evacuate the wounded and destroy enemy forces. Currently, the Russians have concentrated their main strikes on the southern part of Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad, and are also putting pressure on the flanks. In small groups, they try to enter settlements and gather for further attacks. At the same time, Russian forces are destroying everything with artillery and guided aerial bombs, and with FPV drones they aim to cut off our supply routes. To do this, they launch dozens of drones. For now, the paratroopers say they are managing to hold back the enemy, but logistics are complicated, and without ground drones, it's difficult to deliver all the essentials.
If the autonomous UGV doesn't proceed forward, then the human driver inevitably risks his own precious life. That's it. At the very least, it's about delivering essential supplies. If everything works well, the critical personnel at the position have adequate food, sufficient water, and necessary ammunition.